All right, I'm here with Trevor Crotts. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. I've been wanting to have you on for quite a while. I know we joked about it at Startup Week that I just hadn't even asked you, but you've been on my list of people to interview for quite a while. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm fine. I'm glad we finally made the cut and we got together here. I'm
There we go.
appreciating that. Yeah, so my name's Trevor Crotts. I'm an entrepreneur in Wichita, Kansas. I've spent the last 10 years working in the pet space, specifically on my pet products company. So we got started at about 10 years ago with Buddy Rest Pet Products. I was working in the mattress industry at the time. And I saw an opportunity with my big dog, Buddy. I was really shocked one day on a routine visit to the vet to discover that his lifespan wasn't very long. I had a poodle growing up that lived to be about 16, 17.
Hmm.
And so when I found out that my Labradoodle was only supposed to live to be about 9 or 10, it was really kind of shocking. And then doing some more research, I kind of discovered that the reason why big dogs don't live as long is because of painful joint problems. Now, the fact that I was working in the mattress industry at the time, and I had seen firsthand how the right support system and how pressure-free support really make a difference for people. I started to look at and see what I could do for my dog in kind of like a more proactive measure. And there's just nothing out there. The dog beds that were considered to be supportive dog beds or orthopedic dog beds they were just crap. They were using the same foam that you use to ship products in, not to lay on.
Right.
And so I saw an opportunity right then and there to do something, not only for my dog, but for the millions of dogs out there that are destined to suffer the same fate and live short lives because of painful joint problems. And so we created a dog bed. We created Buddy Rest, and that's really where our story starts.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that kind of quick intro. Taking one step back, did you grow up in Wichita? What's your background in Wichita?
Yeah, I'm a Wichita native. I've been here my whole life. Actually, at one point in time, I think I was maybe 22, 23. I was in Germany for several weeks, and I remember thinking, I'm never going back to Wichita. And it's just not for me. I'm going to explore the world. And then, snap forward later, I've got kids and a mortgage, and here I am. It's just like there's something magnetizing about Wichita, even if it is not just being your hometown, obviously, but as much as a lot of us want to say that we'd like to live somewhere more glamorous or in the mountains on the beach, we find ourselves here, don't we?
Yep, it's such a common story for sure, especially like the boomerang story. Where did you go to high school?
I actually went to Circle High School in Towanda.
Okay, gotcha. Nice. Okay.
I went to grade school in Wichita, and then middle school, my parents moved to the edge of town.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, like the way that the districts were drawn is rather than drive a couple miles to Heights, I ended up having to drive 24 miles to the Circle. So
I've seen that. I know it's like 21st and like I can't remember 143rd maybe or something is like still Circle District. Yeah.
It's just like it's a really crazy situation because it was really like a cultural shock for me being from a city school to go out to the country where there was only a couple hundred kids in the whole school.
Sure.
Was pretty shocking, but it was a cool experience. And I still have some good friends I stay in touch with this day from those days. I've been back to Towanda once in 20 years though, so there's not a lot of love lost there.
Sure. Yeah, I feel it, but I kind of lump that all into Wichita. I'm from Andover, so from Circle, went to Wichita State. What was your plan? Like, what were you planning on doing? What did you do right after school before Buddy Rest came to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most kids in college, they don't know what the hell they want to do. So they do what I did, which is go into business, right? It's like, well, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but I want to have money. So business is like kind of like the thing to do. I actually had spent some time, I've done a couple different things. I'd spent some time in a call center. Really, that's kind of where I really got started. Is my first job, I worked at North Rock Movie Theater, which is actually Occidental Management's headquarters now on the east side. And then I went from there. I went to a telemarketing company called APAC, which was really interesting because that's really where I found out I had a gift to sell. And I started, in my first week on the phones, which, by the way, outbound telemarketing, not for everybody. Not for most, but it was for me. I found something I could tolerate it, and I enjoyed it. I liked to make that sale. It filled my cup when I made that sale. And within a few weeks, I was the number one salesperson in the call center. A few weeks after that, I had my own team. And then, I found myself as a senior manager with, lots of responsibilities at the age of 18, 19, oftentimes dealing with people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, just this punk kid trying to tell them what to do. And,
Right.
and it was a really interesting time. But one thing that it did is it gave me a kind of a crash course on customer interaction, on selling. It's one of those things. It's like the amount of repetition, the amount of no's that you hear in such a short period was really valuable and beneficial to me. And then it also really kind of inspired me to well, it really, I guess, helped clarify what really matters to me in life. And what I mean by that is I found that what really filled my cup eventually was actually not selling people stuff, but actually teaching people and training people how to sell stuff. So that's where I started doing some training. I did a lot of the training courses there, and that kind of like launched that whole thing inside of me that really just likes to teach people stuff, and I still have that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not know that about you, but I think that's super interesting. One of my big questions was, where did you learn the sales and marketing? Because obviously, startup company with multiple brands now, where does that background come in? Did you learn that on the fly? But obviously, you had a little bit of background, at least in the sales, and probably, I mean, I can imagine in a call center, you're getting more reps in a week, a month, a year than most people have in their whole life trying to sell anything. So I think that definitely probably helps out a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot kind of like playing online poker. If you want to
Yeah.
learn poker back in the day, you'd have to go to the casinos or playing the underground games. But then, in my generation, playing online poker, you really got to see, you get to see so much so fast that
Yeah.
the learning curve gets so much shorter. And so, yeah, I definitely had a crash course on sales there. I think my sales career really started when I was at Best Buy. I worked at Best Buy when I was 17, 18, and it was a really cool experience. I met some really, really awesome people, and I really learned a lot of things that I steal from them today. Their care process: contact, ask, recommend, encourage. If you look at my employee handbook for sales, it talks about the care process: contact, ask, recommend, and encourage, because that process really translates across to every segment of every industry.
Right.
And in my opinion, there's no reason to have a 15-step sales process when you have a 4-step sales process. So I definitely learned a lot from sales there. I learned a lot from sales in the space at the call center. But when it came to marketing a business and selling products online, I didn't know anything.
Right.
I just knew that I knew that the world has all the information available to us now, and unlike any other time before us. And it really just kind of depends on what you want to do with it. Do you want to spend all day watching funny cat videos, or do you want to level up and learn how to do something that's going to, help you live a more fulfilling life of significance?
Right.
And so that's what I did. Is when we started Buddy Rest, I just started digging in and started learning. Being a perpetual learner, I think, is one of the most important things you can do as an entrepreneur. And that's just the job of learning and upgrading your skills just is never ending. And so that's really where I learned, is the internet. The internet taught me, the school of hard knocks. I promise you, I've made almost every mistake you can make in business and in entrepreneurship. And I've learned a lot from those mistakes too. So that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So you go with call center, you end up working at a mattress store. And then you have this idea for a dog bed, kind of from the concepts and technology and everything from the mattress store. So what does that process look like? You have the idea, you start cutting up mattresses or whatever to make the dog beds. Do you make that leap immediately? Do you kind of do it on the side for a while? What did that process look like?
Yeah, I did it on the side for a while. I basically joined forces with my friend Jordan Tibbetts, who was working in the mattress industry as well. And me and him went at this thing together. And, it was a side gig for a while. We kind of had an idea. We weren't really sure. I told you kind of the origin story, but the next step after that is that we went to the dog show that's out Wolfstock, the one that's out on Edgewood County Park. This is many years ago. This is 10, 11 years ago now. And we worked really hard to we hired an upholstery company that made us like a cover, and we got a piece of foam, and we had like a sample product there. And I had hired some guy in India off some random website to build us our own website, thebuddyrest.com. We had this banner made. It was really like our day in the sun.
Yeah.
It was a freaking nightmare. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. The guys stopped being responsive the day of. We had our website on our banner behind us, but the website didn't take you anywhere. The website didn't work. It wasn't up. It was a broken domain. We only had one product. We had a lot of people that were asking us like, how much, where can I buy this? And we didn't have one to sell them. It was
Right.
that. So out of that day, what that did get us, so it didn't get us any sales, that's for sure. But what it did get us, it gave us the validation to know that we actually had something. We had kind of a unique product
Right.
that people wanted, and maybe it wasn't accessible for everybody. Not everybody's willing to spend 100, $200 or $300 on a dog bed at the time, but it gave us enough to know. It gave us enough validation to know that, hey, we have something here. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And so from there, we actually got our act together. We ended up getting our website up a couple of days later, and I think a couple weeks later, we actually made our first sale.
Nice.
And then her name was Ann Grossman. Shout out Ann Grossman. I don't know where you are here, but that was our first customer. And a couple days later, we got a second one, then another one, and then it kind of just started to roll from there.
Nice. I think one thing that always sticks out to me is that there's certain industries where people are willing to spend a lot of money. It's like weddings, funerals, I don't know, kids, and like pets are like the four that there's really not a budget for like dog lovers. Like they don't have a budget a lot of the time. If they really love their dog, it's like a member of the family. So they're willing to spend $300, $400, $500 on a dog bed if it means their dog is living a better life.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But the way we look at it is it's not just necessarily like a status or a luxury purchase.
Right.
Our products are designed to last the lifetime of your dog. So yeah, a $200 dog bed might sound like a lot of money, but when you think about what it does for your dog, it improves their quality of life, improves their health, it relieves arthritic pain, gives them a pain-free haven for them to lay. It just in general makes them a happier and healthier dog. And then you look at the fact that it's guaranteed to last, 10 years or the lifetime of the animal. So, I mean, that's $20 a year over the course of 10 years.
Right.
And then if you look at it compared to the disposable mentality we have, where we buy a dog bed, we wash it, it falls apart because it's made like crap, and we end up throwing it away and buying another one. It actually does make good sense too, but that's a hard point to articulate to people, right?
Right, for sure.
Staring down the barrel of an expensive purchase.
Right, for sure. So once you got started, and I heard you talk about this on a couple other podcasts, but for people that haven't heard those, what was your thought process doing like brick and mortar versus e-com? What was your thought process?
Yeah, sure. So we saw a big opportunity and a challenge to get into brick and mortar. I thought brick and mortar was really the way to go, even though, the fact is that a more expensive dog bed was a challenge to be on the shelves. We equated ourselves to kind of the tip of the spear. And if you looked at 10 years earlier, what happened in dog food, people went from buying crap Alpo at the store to buying $60, $70, $80 bags of dog food, to raw food, to cooking their own meals for their dogs.
Right.
And we saw that change, and we thought that we would be that change in the mattress industry. Why does somebody buy a $70 bag of dog food versus a $20 bag of dog food at Walmart? And it's because they care about the health of their animal. And so we thought the same scenario. Why would you buy a more expensive dog bed, a $200 dog bed or $150 dog bed versus a $30 dog bed? It's because you care about the health of your animal and you want them to be happy and healthy. And so what we found was over the first couple of years, we really pushed that narrative. We really got, we had some success. I think we got into about 600 stores, 700 stores nationwide, mostly mom and pop, brick and mortar, independent stores. However, what we found was that we were really good at selling them, but they weren't really good at selling them. And so what that means, or if anybody who's in retail or anybody who sells to retail, what's more important than pushing the product is pulling the product, which means not selling to the store, but helping the store sell it, and then most importantly, getting the reorder. So we were getting a lot of initial sales, but not a lot of reorders. And when we come to figure out why, it was because we could articulate the value proposition on why people should make the purchase to that store owner at the trade show or wherever they were making that purchase on the phone. But it was really hard for that, summertime, part-time employee to articulate to that random customer why they should buy this bed. It was just, there's just a big educational component. So having a background in training, we created some really sophisticated training programs. We really pushed really hard. But ultimately what we found is in this day and age with e-commerce, we could sell direct consumer around the clock 24 hours a day without having to train or teach anybody anything. Our website could articulate the value proposition better than a store owner could. And so that's really where we ended up. We ended up after about 2 years of pushing that wholesale strategy, we ended up switching mostly direct to consumer which is where we still find ourselves today. Which, we do still sell to some stores, and there is some
Right.
stores in our country. That's just because we have a much larger scope of what we do now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even just 10 years ago, I feel like compared to 10 years ago, how much more prevalent Shopify stores are and DTC companies are and everything else. I feel like it's just a lot more common to have just DTC rather. You just skip the brick and mortar today versus, again, 10 years ago.
Well, I think access has been democratized quite a bit by companies like Shopify, for example. Like when we started on a platform called Joomla, and then we migrated from Joomla to Magento. And some people still use Magento today. But why do we move to Magento? Because Magento is where all the big dogs were, and like that. If you wanted to be a serious e-commerce player, you were on Magento.
Right.
So we wanted to be a big serious e-commerce player on Magento, but what we found out is Magento requires a significant amount of money and a regular development team on staff. So what would happen is you'd want to go and change like a sale price on something, and I would go in there and I'd make a small change, and the entire code would break and the whole platform would collapse. And we literally spent a couple $100,000 developing on Magento, which made it difficult to cut loose of that, which is a kind of a lesson that we learned, is that oftentimes you get caught in that fallacy that you're already too far in, or you're pot committed.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes no matter how much you've already invested, you still got to cut loose and move on to the next thing. Yeah. And that's what we ended up doing. We moved to Shopify. And the reason why I think that's significant, Landon, is because Shopify has now made it, Shopify and Wix and GoDaddy, and there's a bunch of other ones, Squarespace. They have made it to where you don't need a large development team. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop a website. And, it really makes that makes e-commerce and entrepreneurship accessible to everybody in their kitchen.
For sure. And I think that's what you said it earlier today, but how today is kind of like the best time to be an entrepreneur. Like some people might argue that it's harder today, but really we have way more resources. Like you said, today I can go start a Shopify store and start selling something right now, probably in like 30 minutes. And it took you guys hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that rolling not that long ago. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, today is an amazing time to be alive. For those of you who question it, just look around and you look at what's happening with 3D, AR, VR, which is a space that I'm very interested in as well. You look at what's happening with cryptocurrency and NFTs, and you look at what's happening with just the decentralization of the world in almost every industry, in almost every respect. Never before has there been an opportunity to empower people and democratize access to things like information, capital, and in markets, to where that people can build stuff, people can do stuff. You just look at like Bitcoin, for example, and I don't want to go on a 20-minute tangent on Bitcoin, but the fact is that, if you live in Argentina and you hold some Bitcoin and, there's a new government comes into power and federalizes all of the banks, they can't touch your money. Right. Which is unfortunately for a lot of the world, we have a lot of first world problems we deal with here, but for a lot of the world, people don't have, equitable access to things like water and internet and money, and they don't have that kind of control. So decentralizing this and giving people the power back, and the power to start businesses, and the power to own their own money, and the power to really follow their dreams is an amazing thing. And it's unlike anything that we've ever had. Now you couple that with the technology that's out there, and technology is really only limited by our imagination. And so this day and age is absolutely the golden age for entrepreneurship. And if you're sitting there on the sidelines wondering if this is a good time to get in or not, you're wasting time. So it's like grab a playbook and get in the game somehow, some way, and figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could go on a tangent that could be a whole podcast on itself, but thank you for bringing that up. That was very insightful. I want to talk a little bit about, so Buddy Rest was kind of the head start. What other brands do you have, and what is the benefit to having, I don't know, separate companies under kind of the Buddy Brands label?
Sure. Yeah. So Buddy Rest is what we started with, which is our world's best dog beds. Then we also have Natural Doggy, which is a natural products company for pets. We sell a variety of like coconut oil, CBD oil, salmon oil, like only derived of the best ingredients sourced from around the world, only the best for your dogs. So that's Natural Doggy. That's DOGGIE.com. And then we also have Pup IQ, which is all about smart products for pets. And then we also have Tough Pup, which is kind of my personal favorite, which is all about tough, tactical products for dogs. Mostly like more of a man brand, more of like, ballistic nylon and
right.
military stuff. But the reason for the different brand approach is simple. Oftentimes I've been challenged over the years, like, why don't you just make everything under Buddy Rest? You have all these dog customers. And the fact is that although 50% or over 50% of Americans these days actually have dogs in their home, there's a wide variety of dog people. Not all dog people are the same.
Right.
And so in this day and age, especially when it comes to e-commerce, especially when it comes to direct to consumer marketing, we want to make sure that our branding and our messaging is resonating.
Right.
We can help tell their story through our products and through our brand. And you can't just do that by throwing it all under one category. Yes, they're dog people, but there's just so many different dog people out there. And the customer that would buy a Buddy Rest dog bed is not necessarily the same customer that buys natural doggy products or tough pup products.
Right.
There definitely is some crossover, but that's the long answer. The short answer is that you want to have a really highly targeted approach that's curated for that audience.
Awesome. I was curious about that. I'm curious, I guess I'm not super in the space, obviously, but how many other people take that approach? Because I think that's a great idea. I don't, like you said, it's hard to, if you tried to make Buddy Rest and then, I'll include everything, the whole spectrum, most people get confused and just not buy your product, but I think that's a really good approach.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that do it. It's definitely not anything that's too innovative.
Right.
If you look at Procter and Gamble, they own pretty much every.
That's a great point. Yeah.
You look at Toyota has Lexus and BMW has Audi. Sorry, not BMW. Audi has VW. There's always different strokes for different folks, and I think brands, especially in this digital age, it's important that what you're talking about and what your value prop is, and not only that, kind of what your brand is about and the feel of what your brand is really speaking to that individual customer. If you try to, you mentioned that you get confused and you don't buy. That's true. A confused mind does not buy. But if you try to be something for everybody, you end up being nothing for no one. So it's important to really kind of find out who your customer is and go all in on that.
Right. Absolutely. So how big is your team kind of across the board for all the brands?
Yeah. So right now we've got, I think maybe 17, 18 people right now in our facility. I think at peak, we usually have about 20 right before Christmas time.
Okay. And do all those people work on everything, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So, we're full. So to take it kind of where we're at today, we're full-fledged manufacturer. So we manufacture here in Wichita, Kansas. We make a variety of different products for other companies as well as our own. So we make like not only dog beds, we make collars, leashes, we do some supplementation. We have a small laboratory, and we make products for other companies too, like Gunner Kennel Company, CC Animal Health, Wayfair. We make, we also do fiber filling and other services for other companies. So a lot of what we do is not under the Buddy Rest label or
Gotcha. Okay.
Doggy. And so from a manufacturing standpoint, we have anywhere between 6 to 10 machine operators and production people at any time. And then the rest is administrative staff and marketing.
Very cool. Okay. Very interesting. On one of the podcasts, and we don't have to get into specific numbers, obviously, but it mentioned, I think, substantial 7 figures in sales. Did you ever, when you were first making those dog beds, did you ever expect it to be that scale, or was that always the goal to be that big of a company?
I think the goal is I'm an ambitious person. I think the goal, I think it's important to set attainable goals, but I think it's important to set that bar high. And we're nowhere near the goals I have for our organization. I think that I remember my boss at the mattress company told me, funny enough, told me that, this is kind of a cool thing you got going. At the time I told him, go back to your original question. I waited to get some traction before I jumped ship, right?
Sure.
Because I had bills to pay and whatnot. Yeah. So I was working both jobs at the time. And I remember telling my boss, Oprah has one of my beds, because Oprah actually got one of my beds. Oprah's dog trainer, Tamar Geller, got some beds specially made for Oprah. And I thought we were like ecstatic. It was like an amazing big thing. And I remember telling him Oprah has our beds, and he thought that was cool. And then he told me, like, look, I hope you don't plan on ever leaving anywhere, because this is never going to be anything other than a side gig, right? And shout out to that guy right now, you know who you are. But ultimately, Yeah, no, I never thought it was going to be a side gig. I always thought we could change the world because I knew that dog beds were a commodity-based product at the time. I knew that we could do something that was more important for the health of the animal. And I was really passionate, and I still am, but I really was really passionate at the time about how our product could make a difference in the world of animals. And long story short, let's take take money and milestones and all that stuff out of the equation. We have sold thousands, tens of thousands of beds around the world. So although we are a for-profit business, at least we try to be most of the time, when my head hits the pillow, I feel great comfort in the fact that my legacy, I guess, whenever that is that, whenever that ends or whenever I move on to the next realm, I'll know that something I did made a difference, and that matters to me. And I don't, we're not looking for a medal or anything, but the fact that our dogs, there's many dogs out there that have pain be alleviated, have better quality of lives, that have more time to spend on this earth. That's something that I don't take lightly, and something that really matters.
No, I think that's really powerful. I'm a dog person. We've always had dogs. We've got a 4-year-old Borador chocolate lab border collie mix, and I don't know, I'm definitely going to start looking at the products a little bit closer. I was looking at the website earlier, and I was playing around with the AR stuff, and so we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I think what you're doing is making a difference. It's really cool.
Thanks.
How do you split up your time between like product innovation, I don't know, management, whatever else, as the CEO of multiple brands or the brand as a whole?
Yeah, so in the beginning, there's a lot of different things. I'll just share this because I think it's maybe valuable for anybody who's maybe wanting to embark on an entrepreneurial journey. In the beginning, you do need to do everything. You have to wear all the hats, right? Everybody always talks about delegating, but delegating is kind of a luxury problem. If you have no money and no product, and you're trying to make a business work, and there's really nobody you can lean on, you kind of have to do it all. And so in the beginning, you have to wear many hats. Now, that's in that first stage. What that allows you to get a really great operational knowledge on a variety of different subjects. You don't have to be an expert at everything, but it really serves you later in life. And what I mean by that is, in the beginning, you have to do it all. You have to kind of find ways to patch together, hire freelancers. But as you get to scale, as you start to grow, you really do have to kind of let go, which is, I think, a big challenge. I see a lot of founders and leaders out there that are really they're their own biggest problem. And I was that way for quite some time, where I couldn't get out of my own way. I wanted to control everything rather than delegate and empower people. And so what that does, though, is as you go along, you're able to hire marketing firms because you know how pay-per-click marketing works. You're able to keep that marketing, or you're able to check the performance on their KPIs. You're able to speak the language. You're able to make sure you don't get screwed over, which is unfortunately what happens for a vast variety, majority of people. If you don't know anything about marketing, it's really hard to run a business. And if you don't know anything about marketing, it's really hard to hire a marketing firm and trust them to run the business for you, because they're really not bought in. And so for me, as the years have gone by, I've got some great teammates, hired a great COO that's really done a great job building the business out, scaling it, and kind of taking the day-to-days. The beauty of being an entrepreneur is, after enough pain and sacrifice, you start to focus on doing what you really enjoy, and everybody else gets to do everything else. And that is actually kind of where I've arrived today, is I feel like I get to work, you have different people call it different things. I call it working within your gifts, but other people will call it working within your zone of genius, or working in your pluses. But, what I consider to be the key to success is working inside of your gifts. What people tend to like to do is what people are good at. What people suck at, they generally usually don't like, because nobody likes it. So if you can position all of your people in your organization to really work in what they're good at, that's generally also what fulfills them. Right. That's for me too, is that what I'm good at is the marketing and the sales and the relationships and the conversation. That's also what fulfills me. What doesn't fulfill me is the spreadsheet work and the data entry and the HR issues and that kind of stuff. Yeah, of course. So now that I'm able to work inside of my gifts, I spend most of my day on sales and marketing and on the bigger relationship stuff, and it fills my cup, and so I feel really good about it. That's awesome. Can you touch a little bit on is it Compel commerce
and then going to the Scanshop stuff. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So recently, I actually have a German technology partnership with a company in Germany that's called ScanBlue, and they have a hyperphotogrammetry machine. So they have a technology that takes any product out there and creates a 3D model. And I kind of serendipitously met them through a friend of mine who was on a high school exchange from Germany. We became lifelong friends, and met them, and they were looking for a North American partner that could take their technology. And I saw how valuable it was for e-commerce. And so I set up Scanshop 3D, which is our North American wing. It's in Wichita. It's located right here in our facility, actually right next door. And what we do is we take items, we scan them, and we create 3D models for brands. Why would you want your product in 3D? Because it's 2022. And if you deploy your product in 3D in e-commerce, it increases conversion rates by about a minimum of about 30%. So if you give somebody better access to it, they can give them more confidence to make the purchase, increases conversion rates. It also lowers return rates, because if you show people what they see before they buy it, it shows up and it's what they see is what they get. They're going to much less likely to return it. It also makes content creation much cheaper, because you can take that 3D model and put it into some really high quality content creation. But also there's a thing called the metaverse people are talking about right now, which is if you're a brand and you want to onboard your catalog into the metaverse, how do you get your products into that digital realm? Well, Scanshop does that. And we're not the most affordable or the fastest way to do it, but what we do is we focus on high fidelity authenticity. So authenticity is the name of the game. Authenticity is the currency that we are spending here. We want to make sure that when somebody's looking at a product in the digital realm, it is an actual representation of the product, not this cartoony thing that somebody rendered somewhere. So that's actually Scanshop. And on the side of Scanshop, I set up Compel. Compel is a marketing agency. It's just getting started. And we're working with brands to basically create those finished products. So if you have an e-commerce company out there and you want some help, I was doing consulting on the side anyway. Now I'm doing it through the Compel brand. And if you want some help with your e-commerce, we can do that. But also, if you have assets that you just got created or got created somewhere else, you want to put them into a virtual photo shoot. You want to put them into by virtual photo shoot, I mean having a photo shoot without having a photo shoot. If you have the 3D asset, you can actually natively put it into a scene and make it look seamless. And then you can also produce some really high quality videos for commercial use too. So that's what we do with Compel.
Very cool. That's awesome. That's so cool that, I think some of the bigger guys, probably like Target probably has like some kind of AR thing. I don't know how well those work, but I was playing around with, maybe they don't at all. I don't know.
They don't actually. The reason I nodded at that is because I've been talking with Target specifically about this exact
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea. I was just kind of guessing, but I was playing around with yours, and it is very realistic. It's pretty cool. And I think on another one of those podcasts, you mentioned how this is different than kind of how 3D modeling was done back in the day. I graduated in 2015 from Wichita State as a mechanical engineer. And so I was doing CAD CAM 3D modeling all the way through school. And so I know a lot about the 3D modeling, and the scanning is such a cool way to do it this way, make it realistic. I don't know. It's really cool. That's awesome.
I mean, and look, humans can make beautiful 3D models. There's no doubt about that. But oftentimes, especially if you're talking about at scale, there's inconsistency, right?
Right.
And when a human's making a 3D model off of a product or even a product image, which a lot of them do, I like to think of it's kind of like someone painting an art class, painting that bowl of oranges, right?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people can paint some really great bowls of oranges, but does it really look like that exact bowl of oranges? And in this day and age, we need to make sure it's what they see is what they get, because the reverse is also true. Is if you made a purchase based on a 3D model and it shows up and it's not what you expected, that sucker's going
right back.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. We got a couple minutes left. I have a few questions that I kind of cherry picked from other podcasts. So we'll go into those, and I kind of ask these ones to everybody. So what is something you often recommend to people, whether that's books, podcasts, it can be entrepreneurial specific if you like, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I'll do a couple. So if from a book standpoint, if you're getting into marketing, the 80-20 Rule of Marketing by Perry Marshall is a great book. Talks about how 80-20 rule talks about how that applies to your marketing. 20% of your customers equals 80% of your revenue. How do you focus in on that? That rule is pretty much prevalent across every industry.
Hmm.
I also love my other favorite book, I would say, is Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss.
Yeah,
He was
great
an
book.
FBI negotiator. Really great books, entertaining, unlike most business books, which are just like god awful long and boring. This is a really cool, entertaining book. Talks about how you can negotiate and use your radio FM voice to really take people to get what you want in life, whether that be negotiating a business deal, negotiating a car, or negotiating, who's going to show up to your party. Understanding how to influence others is important. From a podcast standpoint, anybody first off, if you're looking at starting a serious e-commerce business, Shopify is the place to be, not Squarespace or Wix or GoDaddy. If you really want to do a real website, Shopify. And I have not always, by the way, felt that way about Shopify. Over the last several years, they've really turned it up. And if you're into Shopify, a great podcast to listen to is the Unofficial Shopify Podcast by Kurt Elster.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of him and what he does. The Official Shopify Podcast is great too. I've been a guest on that, so I probably should mention them. Yeah, I mean, look, the end of the day, when I was starting this company, I had a lot of downtime, and I was in a mattress store a lot of the time, and I'd see people watching Netflix all day, waiting for customers and whatnot. Meanwhile, I was reading articles. So, once again, the access to all of the world's information is in your fingertips. Like never before has the planet had access to this information. What do you do with it is really up to you. And,
Right.
and you can sit there and complain about why you're not happy with your life, and you can make a million excuses on why you didn't make it happen. Or you can take action right here, right now. And sometimes just little actions. Just pick up the phone, read an article about something, find out something that you're passionate about, learn something. And every time you learn something that you get a little bit better at it. There's a magnet on our refrigerator in our break room that I love. And it says that the success is doing the little things every single day. And that's really what it is, because everybody wants to see the success curve here, which is what we always present to investors, right? So this is invest in this and it's going to go like that. But what really success generally looks like is a lot of this. And there's a lot of like these day ins, day outs. It's a lot of challenges. And, people say follow your passion. That's true, I think, to some extent, but passion's not always going to be there. So some days you're going to wake up and that passion to get out of bed to go work on your project, it's just not going to be there. And so what are you going to rely on? So what I always tell people is follow your passion, but have a deeper purpose below it, behind it. That way, when you're not feeling passionate, that purpose still carries you out to put your feet on the floor, take that step and get going. And so if you can have a life where you're working within your gifts, you have your passion and your purpose, I think that's kind of the secret sauce to really accomplishing your dreams and being fulfilled.
Perfect. I love that. Just really one more question. What does Wichita mean to you?
Home. Wichita is, look, we don't have the beaches, we don't have the mountains, we don't have the big flashy casinos. We have some amazing people. For years, I never thought that Wichita had anything to offer me from a business standpoint. I was trying to build a global brand in the pet business, and there wasn't many people trying to do what I'm doing. There's not many e-commerce people around here. When I actually stuck my head out, and when I joined ETE originally, started getting some press, started meeting people, started going to networking events, I realized not only is there amazing people in this town, but there's also amazing people that can open up amazing opportunities for you. The fact is if you just sit at home and boo-hoo about it, you won't ever find that. And you never know in this serendipitous world where that next opportunity or that next door is going to open, or where opportunity is knocking. Oftentimes people are busy watching cat videos with their headphones on. So you have to, that whole like luck is preparation meeting opportunity. I believe that you have to put yourself in a position to be successful. So Wichita to me is it's a collection of amazing people. And I think that although we have a lot of challenges in front of us, we have a lot of grit, we have a lot of fortitude in this town. Our grandmas were building bombers here, helping win World War II. So I mean, we can do some really cool shit here, and we can really make an impact and really be significant. but it takes all of us to be activated, and it takes all of us to take a step towards that.
Yep, that's a great way to end it, Trevor. I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you or Buddy Brands or Buddy Rest? If you want to shout out a couple websites, and I'll link everything as
Yeah,
well.
sure. If you're interested in our world-class dog beds, buddyrest.com. Interested in the best natural products for your dogs, Natural Doggy, DOGGIE.com. We also have the best CBD for dogs there. So if you have any dogs with pain, mobility, anxiety, itching, allergies, think about their happiness too. You wouldn't be happy, anxious, and scratching yourself all day. So do something about that. And then also, if you're a brand and you want to know more about digitizing your product catalog, scanshop.io. That's SCANSHOP.io. Other than that, you can find me on LinkedIn, Trevor Crotts, CROTTS. I'm happy to connect with anybody. If anybody hears this and resonated with anything I said and want to follow up with me or ask me about something, I'm accessible, and shoot me a message and we can chat.
Perfect. I will link everything up. Trevor, thanks again for coming on. I look forward to having you on in the future as you build your pet empire. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
See ya.